He stood in that boardroom and said the words that would haunt him forever. A black woman won't suit this position. The echo hadn't even faded when she walked through the door, brilliant, composed, and about to shatter every ignorant assumption he'd ever made. Ethan Ward thought he had it all figured out. Corner office, stellar reputation, the comfort of a world that had always bent to accommodate him. But Naomi Clark didn't come to accommodate anyone. What he didn't know that morning, what he couldn't possibly imagine, was that his casual prejudice had just set in motion a reckoning that would cost him his career, his pride, and force him to choose between the life he knew and the woman who would teach him what love actually means. By the time he realized she wasn't just suited for the position, she was suited for his heart, it might already be too late. Subscribe right now and comment below if you've ever had to completely rebuild yourself to deserve someone's trust, because this redemption story is about to get real. The morning sun cut through the glass walls of the boardroom at Dalton & Myers Marketing. Ethan Ward stood by the window, coffee in hand, watching the Atlanta traffic crawl below. At 33, he'd earned his corner office and his reputation. People listened when he spoke. They respected his judgment. "So who are we interviewing today?" Graham Cole leaned against the mahogany table, scrolling through his phone. Angela Brooks, the HR coordinator, glanced up from her folder. "Naomi Clark. She's got impressive credentials, worked at 2 major agencies. Her portfolio is strong." Ethan turned from the window. He set his coffee down with a soft click. "What's her background?" "Atlanta native, marketing degree from Emory. She's been in the field for 6 years." Angela smiled. "I think you'll be impressed." Graham snorted. "Another diversity hire?" Ethan's jaw tightened. He should have stopped Graham right there, should have said something about professionalism. Instead, he heard himself say, "A black woman won't suit this position. Our clients are conservative. They expect a certain image." The words hung in the air like smoke. Angela's smile vanished. She stared at him, her brown eyes sharp with disappointment. "Ethan, I'm being realistic." He picked up his coffee again, took a sip. "I'm just thinking about what works." "What works is talent," Angela said quietly. "And she has it." Before Ethan could respond, the boardroom door opened. Angela straightened her shoulders and walked toward the entrance. Her heels clicked against the polished floor. "Ms. Clark, right this way." Ethan felt his stomach drop. The woman who entered the room carried herself like someone who'd already won. She wore a navy blue suit that fit perfectly. Her natural hair was styled in elegant twists pulled back from her face. When she smiled at Angela, the warmth reached her eyes. "Thank you for seeing me," she said. Her voice was clear, confident. Ethan's throat went dry. He could still hear his own words echoing in his mind. "A black woman won't suit this position." She looked directly at him. Her dark eyes were intelligent, assessing. She extended her hand. "Naomi Clark, it's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Ward." Her handshake was firm. "Professional." He fumbled through the introduction, acutely aware that Graham was smirking behind them. "Please, have a seat," Ethan managed. Naomi sat across from him, her posture perfect. She placed her leather portfolio on the table between them. Everything about her screamed competence. Ethan felt a bead of sweat form at his temple. "Tell us about your most successful campaign," he said. She didn't hesitate. "Last year, I led a rebranding project for a regional grocery chain. They were losing market share to bigger competitors. We focused on community connection, highlighting local farmers, family stories, neighborhood roots. Sales increased by 32% in 6 months. Graham leaned forward. "Anyone can boost sales temporarily. What about long-term growth?" "The campaign created lasting customer loyalty," Naomi replied smoothly. "A year later, their retention rate is still climbing. They've opened 3 new locations." She pulled out her tablet, sliding it across the table. "The data's all here." Ethan looked at the numbers. They were impressive, very impressive. He asked 3 more questions. She answered each one with facts, examples, and quiet confidence. She never got defensive, never wavered. 45 minutes later, she stood to leave. "Thank you for your time." After the door closed behind her, the room fell silent. Graham spoke first. "Well, she's got credentials, but can she handle our client base?" Ethan started to agree. Then he heard footsteps in the hallway. Mr. Dalton, the company's 60-year-old CEO, stepped into the boardroom. His silver hair was neatly combed. His eyes, sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses, swept across the room. "I sat in on the video feed," Mr. Dalton said quietly. He walked to the head of the table, hands clasped behind his back. She's the best candidate you've seen in years. Ethan opened his mouth, closed it. I want her hired, Mr. Dalton continued. She starts Monday. He looked directly at Ethan. Under your supervision. The next morning, Ethan arrived at his office to find an email waiting. The subject line read, New team member assignment. Ethan, Naomi Clark will report directly to you beginning Monday, 9 a.m. Please ensure her orientation is thorough and professional. I have high expectations for this partnership. Richard Dalton. Ethan's hand tightened around his mouse. He forwarded the email to Graham with a single sentence. Dalton hired her. Graham's reply came 30 seconds later. LOL. Let's see how long she lasts. Ethan stared at those words. Something uncomfortable twisted in his chest. Was that really funny? Was that what he sounded like? He deleted the email thread. Monday morning arrived cold and grey. Ethan got to the office early, hoping to avoid the inevitable. But at 8:45, he heard Angela's cheerful voice in the hallway. Your desk is right here near the window. The morning light is beautiful. Thank you. Naomi's voice was warm. You've been so helpful. Girl, we need more women on this floor. I'm glad you're here. Ethan busied himself with paperwork. He heard footsteps approach his open door. A soft knock. Good morning, Mr. Ward. He looked up. Naomi stood in his doorway, wearing a charcoal gray dress and a burgundy blazer. She held a coffee cup in one hand, her portfolio in the other. Naomi, he gestured to the chair across from his desk. Come in. She sat down, her movements graceful and unhurried. I wanted to thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Dalton made the decision. The words came out colder than he intended. Her expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Understanding, maybe, or disappointment. Well, she said evenly, I look forward to proving myself to everyone. She left his office without another word. Ethan exhaled slowly. He felt like he'd just failed a test he hadn't known he was taking. The first team meeting happened at 10 o'clock. Ethan's department gathered in the conference room. 8 people total. Graham sat across from Naomi, watching her like a hawk watches a mouse. Let's go around the table, Ethan said. Everyone introduce yourselves. One by one, his team members shared their names and roles. When it came to Naomi, she smiled at each person. I'm Naomi Clark. I'm excited to join the team and learn from all of you. What's your specialty? Asked Marcus, one of the junior account managers. Brand development and market research. I love finding stories that connect with people. Graham leaned back in his chair. We do things a certain way here. Our clients appreciate consistency. Of course, Naomi said pleasantly. Every company has its culture. I'm here to contribute, not disrupt. Ethan watched the exchange. Graham's tone had been dismissive, but Naomi didn't take the bait. She just kept smiling, kept her voice steady. The meeting continued. When Ethan presented the new campaign for a regional bank, Naomi took notes. She asked 2 thoughtful questions. Both times, Ethan found himself impressed by her insight. As everyone filed out, Mr. Dalton appeared at the door. His timing was never accidental. How did it go? He asked. Fine, Ethan said quickly. Mr. Dalton's gaze shifted to where Naomi was gathering her things. She asked good questions. Yes, sir. Walk with me, Ethan. They left the conference room together. Mr. Dalton's office was at the end of the hall, overlooking the city. He didn't sit down. Instead, he stood by the window, hands in his pockets. You're uncomfortable, Mr. Dalton said. No, Don't lie to me. I've known you for 8 years. The older man's voice was gentle but firm. The problem isn't her fit, Ethan. It's yours. Ethan felt heat rise up his neck. I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do. Mr. Dalton turned to face him. You're a smart man. You're capable. But if you let small thinking define your decisions, you'll never be the leader I know you can become. The words landed like stones. Think about it, Mr. Dalton said quietly. That's all I ask. Ethan left the office feeling like he'd been stripped bare. 2 weeks passed. Ethan kept his distance from Naomi, speaking to her only when necessary. He watched her work, though, watched how she stayed late, how she double-checked every detail, how she treated everyone, even Graham, with respect. Then came the Harrington account presentation. Harrington Investments was one of their biggest clients. The presentation was scheduled for 2 in the afternoon. Ethan had prepared the pitch deck himself, rehearsed it 3 times. But when he connected his laptop to the projector, the screen went black. Technical issue, he muttered, clicking frantically. The clients shifted in their seats. Mr. Harrington, a stern man in his 60s, checked his watch. Ethan felt sweat forming on his forehead. This was bad, very bad. May I? Naomi's voice was calm beside him. He looked at her, desperate. "Please." She stepped forward, unplugging his laptop and connecting her tablet to the projector instead. Within seconds, the presentation appeared on the screen. "Gentlemen," she said smoothly, "thank you for your patience. Let me walk you through our vision for your brand." Ethan stood frozen as Naomi took over. She knew the material, every slide, every talking point. She must have reviewed the deck on her own time. Her delivery was confident, but not arrogant. She made eye contact with each client. When Mr. Harrington asked a tough question about ROI, she answered with specific numbers and projections. 20 minutes later, the clients were nodding, smiling. "Impressive work," Mr. Harrington said as he shook Naomi's hand. "You've got vision." After the clients left, the room emptied. Ethan stood alone with Naomi by the conference table. "Thank you," he said quietly. She began packing up her tablet. "It's my job. You saved the account. We're a team. That's what teams do." She looked at him then, really looked at him. Her eyes were kind but direct. "You would have done the same for me." Would he have? Ethan wasn't sure. The question haunted him as he walked back to his office. That night, long after everyone else had gone home, Ethan sat alone in the dark. The city lights glowed beyond his window. He replayed the presentation in his mind, watched Naomi's calm composure, remembered how she'd stepped in without hesitation. "She handled it better than I did," he whispered to the empty room. The admission felt like opening a door he'd kept locked for too long. The next morning, Ethan arrived at work with a strange feeling in his chest. Something like determination, something like shame. Angela caught him by the elevators. "Did you hear? Mr. Dalton wants you and Naomi to collaborate on the Morrison proposal. Together." "Yep, he sent the assignment this morning." Angela grinned. "Should be interesting." Ethan found Naomi at her desk, already reviewing files. She looked up when he approached. "Morning," he said. "Good morning." Her tone was professional, polite, nothing more. "I saw the Morrison assignment. Want to grab a conference room and start brainstorming?" She studied him for a moment, as if trying to decide if this was genuine. Finally, she nodded. "Sure, give me 5 minutes." They worked together for 3 hours. At first, the conversation was stiff. Ethan suggested ideas. Naomi built on them or offered alternatives. He found himself correcting her tone on a tagline, more out of habit than necessity. "The word revolutionary feels too aggressive," he said. She looked at him steadily. "The data shows that younger consumers respond to bold language. Morrison wants to reach millennials. This word tests well with that demographic." He opened his mouth to argue, stopped. She was right. The research backed her up. "Good point," he said instead. Something shifted in her expression. Not quite a smile, but close. They took a break around noon. The building had a small cafe on the ground floor. Ethan bought coffee from the same vending machine Naomi used. They ended up standing side by side, waiting for their cups to fill. "How are you finding the team?" he asked. "Everyone's been professional." The careful wording wasn't lost on him. "Graham can be difficult. I've worked with difficult before." She retrieved her coffee, added cream. "I'm here to do good work. That's what matters." They walked back to the elevator together. The conversation felt lighter than before. She mentioned a documentary she'd watched about marketing psychology. He told her about a book he'd read on brand loyalty. Small talk, nothing deep. But it felt normal, human. When she left his office later that afternoon, Ethan noticed the empty coffee cup she'd left on the corner of his desk. He found himself smiling at it. What was happening to him? The following week brought new challenges. Graham had been unusually quiet, which should have been a warning sign. Instead, Ethan felt relieved by the peace. Until Tuesday afternoon. Ethan was walking past the employee lounge when he heard laughter. He recognized Graham's voice immediately. "I'm just saying diversity hires aren't always about qualifications." "What do you mean?" someone asked. "Come on. We all know why she's really here." Dalton wanted to look progressive. More laughter. Then another voice. "Did you hear her accent? Where's she from anyway? Does it matter?" Graham's tone was mocking. She probably got handed everything because of quotas. Ethan's hand froze on the doorframe. His stomach turned to ice. He should walk in there, should shut it down immediately. But his feet wouldn't move. Shame, hot and suffocating, wrapped around his throat. Because 3 weeks ago, he'd said something similar. He backed away from the lounge, his heart pounding. He went to his office, closed the door, and sat in the dark for 20 minutes. That evening, as people were leaving, Ethan saw Naomi gathering her things. Her movements were slower than usual. Her shoulders looked heavy. She'd heard them, he was sure of it. He wanted to say something, apologize, explain. But what could he possibly say? That he was sorry his colleague was an ass? That he himself had been just as bad? The words stuck in his throat. Naomi left without looking his way. Ethan stayed late that night, staring at his computer screen. Finally, at 8:30, he opened his email and started typing. Naomi, I wanted to thank you again for your work on the Harrington presentation and the Morrison proposal. Your contributions have been invaluable. I'm grateful to have you on the team. Ethan. He read it 3 times before hitting send. It wasn't enough, not even close, but it was a start. The next morning he found a brief reply in his inbox. Mr. Ward, thank you for the acknowledgement. I appreciate the opportunity to contribute. Naomi, formal, distant, but she'd responded. Ethan found himself reading her email multiple times throughout the day, trying to decode the meaning behind the polite words. Friday brought unexpected news. Mr. Dalton called Ethan into his office just before lunch. I'm sending you and Naomi to lead the pitch for the Riverside Resort account, Mr. Dalton said. It's a weekend retreat. You'll present Monday morning. Ethan's eyes widened. Both of us? Yes. I want to see how you work together under pressure. Mr. Dalton's expression was unreadable. Travel arrangements are being made. You leave tomorrow. Sir, This is a big account, Ethan. Riverside wants fresh energy. Naomi brings that. You bring experience. Together you'll make a strong team. He paused. If you let yourself. There it was again. That gentle challenge. Ethan returned to his desk and found an email from Angela with the travel details. Separate rooms at a lodge 2 hours north. The retreat would last through Sunday, with the pitch scheduled for Monday morning. He saw Naomi leaving the break room and caught up with her. Did you hear about Riverside? He asked. Yes. She held her coffee cup close like a shield. Angela just told me. It'll be good. A chance to focus without office distractions. I suppose. Her tone was neutral, but he caught the tension in her jaw. I know this is sudden. It's fine, Mr. Ward. I'll be ready. She walked past him, her heels clicking purposefully down the hall. Back at his desk, Graham appeared, leaning against the doorframe with his trademark smirk. A romantic weekend getaway? Dalton's really pushing this, huh? It's a business trip, Ethan said coldly. Sure it is. Graham's laugh was ugly. Just don't let her distract you from the real work. Something snapped inside Ethan. He stood up, walking around his desk until he was face to face with Graham. The real work, Ethan said slowly, is showing our clients that we're the best. Naomi's already proven she can do that. Have you? Graham's smirk faltered. I suggest you focus on your own accounts, Ethan continued, and keep your opinions to yourself. He walked past Graham and out of the office, his hands shaking slightly. He'd never confronted Graham like that before, never drawn such a clear line. It felt terrifying. It felt right. Saturday morning, Ethan arrived at the office parking lot at 7. The company van was waiting. Naomi stood beside it, a small suitcase at her feet, looking at her phone. She glanced up when he approached. Morning. Good morning. He loaded his bag into the back. Ready for this? As ready as I'll ever be. The drive north took them through rolling hills and pine forests. Fall colors painted the landscape in gold and red. For the first hour, they barely spoke. Ethan focused on driving. Naomi watched the scenery, occasionally typing on her phone. But as they left the city behind, the silence felt less heavy. Have you been to this area before? Naomi asked. Once. Years ago. It's beautiful. My mother used to bring me to the mountains when I was little. Her voice softened. We'd spend weekends hiking. She said the trees helped her think clearly. Is she still in Atlanta? Yes. She's retired now. Taught middle school English for 30 years. Ethan glanced at her. That's impressive. She's the strongest person I know. Naomi's smile was genuine now, unguarded. She raised me alone after my father left. Never complained. Just kept pushing forward. That takes courage, Ethan said quietly. It does. She looked at him then, really looked at him. She taught me that respect isn't given. It's earned. Every single day. He heard the echo of her earlier words. Respect is expected, not rewarded. Your mother sounds wise, he said. She is. They drove in comfortable silence after that. When they arrived at the lodge, Ethan pulled up to the rustic main building. Mountains rose behind it, their peaks touching low clouds. Wow, Naomi breathed. Yeah. He turned off the engine. Pretty incredible. Inside, the lobby smelled like cedar and wood smoke. A fire crackled in the stone fireplace. Ethan checked them in, while Naomi admired the view through floor-to-ceiling windows. Here you go. The desk clerk handed him 2 key cards. You're in rooms 12 and 14, top floor, end of the hall. Ethan walked over to Naomi. He held out one key card. Your room. She took it, their fingers brushing for just a second. Thank you. Want to grab dinner in an hour? We can go over the pitch deck. She nodded. That works. An hour later, they met in the lodge restaurant. The space was cozy, lit by candles and soft overhead lights. They ordered food and spread their laptops across the table. For 2 hours they worked, refined slides, debated talking points, argued about color schemes, but this time the disagreements felt different, productive, like they were building something together instead of fighting over territory. I think we've got it, Naomi said finally, leaning back in her chair. I think you're right. She smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. Want to know a secret? Sure. I was terrified about this trip. Ethan blinked. Why? Because... She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. Because I wasn't sure if we could work together, really work together. And now I think maybe we can. She met his gaze. If we both try. Something warm settled in Ethan's chest. I'd like that. They finished their meal, conversation drifting from work to life. She told him about her favorite books. He shared stories about growing up in suburban Atlanta. The wall between them, built of awkwardness and hurt, began to crack. When they finally left the restaurant, the night air was cool and crisp. They walked slowly back toward the large entrance. Thank you for today, Naomi said quietly, for listening, for trying. Ethan stopped walking. He looked at her, really looked at her in the moonlight. You're extraordinary, he said softly. The words surprised both of them. Naomi's eyes widened slightly. For a moment, neither of them moved. Good night, Ethan, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Good night, Naomi. He watched her walk into the lodge, his heart beating faster than it should. Something was changing, something big, and Ethan Ward wasn't sure if he was ready for it. But he knew, standing there under the mountain stars, that there was no going back now. Sunday morning arrived with golden light streaming through the pine trees. Ethan woke early, his mind already spinning with thoughts of the presentation, but mixed in with the work anxiety was something else, something he didn't want to name yet. He'd dreamed about Naomi's smile. He showered, dressed in casual clothes, and headed downstairs to the lodge restaurant. The smell of coffee and bacon filled the air. A few other guests sat scattered around the room, speaking in hushed morning voices. Then he saw her. Naomi sat by the window, wearing jeans and a cream-colored sweater. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked relaxed, almost happy. She was reading something on her tablet, her coffee cup steaming beside her. Ethan's feet moved before his brain could stop them. Mind if I join you? She looked up, surprised. Then she smiled. Please. He sat down across from her, ordered coffee from the passing waitress. For a moment, neither of them spoke. It wasn't awkward exactly, just aware, like they both knew something had shifted last night, but weren't ready to talk about it. Sleep well? Naomi asked. Actually, yes. You? Better than I expected. She closed her tablet. I was thinking about the pitch. I have one more idea for the opening. Let's hear it. She explained her concept, starting with a story instead of statistics. A narrative about a family choosing Riverside Resort for their reunion, making it personal before diving into the business details. That's brilliant, Ethan said. It hooks them emotionally right away. You think so? I know so. He leaned forward. This is why Dalton hired you. You see the human side of everything. Pink colored her cheeks. I just think people connect with stories more than numbers. You're right. And I should have listened to you sooner. The words hung between them. Naomi's eyes searched his face, looking for something. Sincerity, maybe, or proof that he meant it. Thank you, she said softly. They spent the morning refining the presentation. They found a quiet corner of the lodge's business center, a small room with a fireplace and comfortable chairs. They worked side by side, laptops balanced on their knees. Around noon, Naomi started telling a story about her mother, without even realizing she was doing it. When I was 12, my mom lost her job, Naomi said, eyes distant. Budget cuts. She'd been teaching for 15 years, and suddenly it was gone. We had maybe 2 months of savings. Ethan stopped typing. He listened. I remember coming home from school one day and finding her at the kitchen table. She was crying. I'd never seen her cry before. Naomi's voice grew quieter. I asked if we'd be okay. And you know what she said? What? She said, baby, we're always okay because we have each other. Money comes and goes, but family, that's forever. Naomi smiled at the memory. She got another teaching job 6 weeks later, but that moment stuck with me. It taught me what real strength looks like. Ethan felt something crack open in his chest. She sounds amazing. She is. Naomi looked at him. She sacrificed everything for me. Made sure I had opportunities she never got. That's why this job matters so much. Why any job matters. I want to make her proud. I think you already have, Ethan said quietly. Their eyes met, held. Something passed between them. Understanding, connection, maybe something more. Naomi cleared her throat and looked back at her laptop. We should probably keep working. Right. Yes, of course. But Ethan couldn't focus anymore. He kept replaying her words. Kept seeing the love in her eyes when she talked about her mother. Kept thinking about how wrong he'd been. About everything. That evening, they decided to take a break from work. The lodge offered a short hiking trail that looped around a nearby lake. Naomi suggested they walk before dinner. The path was easy, covered in fallen leaves. The air smelled like earth and pine. They walked slowly, not rushing. Can I ask you something? Naomi said after a while. Anything. Why did you become so distant when I first started? Angela said you're usually welcoming to new team members. Ethan's stomach tightened. Here it was. The moment he'd been dreading and needing in equal measure. He stopped walking, looked out at the lake. I was uncomfortable. Because of me? Because of what you represented? He forced himself to look at her. I grew up in a very particular environment. Country clubs, private schools. Everyone looked the same, talked the same, thought the same. I never questioned it. I just accepted that was how the world worked. Naomi waited, her expression unreadable. When Dalton said he wanted to hire you, I resisted. Not because of your qualifications. Those were obvious, but because, he exhaled slowly, because some part of me still believed the world I grew up in was the only world that mattered. And now, her voice was soft but steady. Now I know I was wrong. About everything. He met her eyes. You're one of the most talented people I've ever worked with, and more than that, you're genuine, kind, strong. You've challenged every assumption I've ever made about what success looks like. Silence fell between them. A bird called somewhere in the trees. The water lapped gently at the shore. Thank you for being honest, Naomi said finally. That couldn't have been easy. It wasn't. But you deserve honesty. She started walking again. He fell into step beside her. After a moment, she spoke. You know what my mother always says? You can't erase a first impression, but you can write a better next one. Ethan felt a smile tug at his lips. Your mother is very wise. She is. Naomi glanced at him. And she's right. I can't forget how this started, Ethan. But I can see that you're trying. That counts for something. I want to do better. Be better. Then keep showing me. She bumped his shoulder gently with hers. Actions always speak louder than words. They walked the rest of the loop in comfortable quiet. When they returned to the lodge, the sun was setting behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. That was nice, Naomi said as they reached the entrance. Yeah, it was. She looked at him, her eyes warm. See you at dinner? Definitely. As she walked away, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Real, genuine hope that maybe, just maybe, he could become the person he wanted to be, the person she deserved. Monday morning came too fast. Ethan woke at 6, his stomach churning with nerves. The pitch was at 10. They had 4 hours to prepare. He met Naomi for breakfast. She looked calm, but he noticed her hands shaking slightly as she poured cream into her coffee. Nervous? He asked. Terrified, she admitted, but in a good way. We've got this. The presentation is solid. I know. She took a sip of coffee. I just want it to go well. It will, trust me, and more importantly, trust yourself. She smiled at that. Thank you. They ran through the pitch 3 more times in the business center. By 9:30, they were as ready as they'd ever be. The Riverside Resort executives arrived at 9:45. 4 people, 2 men, 2 women, dressed in business casual. They looked friendly, but sharp. These were people who knew quality when they saw it. At exactly 10 o'clock, Ethan and Naomi stood at the front of the conference room. Their presentation was loaded. Their notes were ready. Good morning, Naomi began, her voice clear and confident. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. Today we want to tell you a story. She launched into the opening they'd crafted together, the family reunion narrative, making the resort feel like more than a business, making it feel like home. The executives leaned forward, listening. Then Ethan took over, walking them through the marketing strategy. Social media campaigns, influencer partnerships, local community engagement. Every point was backed by data, but delivered with warmth. When questions came, Naomi fielded them brilliantly. One executive asked about ROI projections. She didn't just give numbers, she explained the reasoning behind them, the market research that supported their strategy. "This is impressive," one of the women said. "You've clearly done your homework." "We believe in your brand," Naomi replied. "We want to help you share it with the world." 30 minutes later, it was over. The executives stood, shaking both their hands. "We'll be in touch by end of day," the lead executive said. "But I can tell you now, this was exactly what we were looking for." After they left, Ethan and Naomi stood alone in the conference room. For a moment, neither moved. Then Naomi let out a breath she'd been holding. "Did that really just happen?" "We did it," Ethan grinned. "You were incredible. We were incredible," she corrected. Together. Before he could overthink it, Ethan pulled her into a hug. She stiffened for half a second, then relaxed, her arms coming around him. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For being brilliant. For being patient with me. For—" He pulled back, looking at her. "For giving me a chance to get it right." Her eyes were bright. "You're welcome." They packed up and drove back to Atlanta. The mood in the car was lighter than it had been on the way up. They talked about everything and nothing, favorite movies, worst concert experiences, foods they hated but pretended to like. When Ethan's hand brushed hers on the center console, neither of them pulled away. That evening, Ethan got the call. Riverside had accepted their proposal. They'd won the account. He immediately texted Naomi, "We got it." Her response came seconds later, "Yes, I knew we would." Then another text, "Thank you for trusting me." Ethan stared at those words for a long time before replying, "Thank you for being someone I can trust." Tuesday morning, the office buzzed with news of the Riverside win. Mr. Dalton called a quick team meeting to congratulate Ethan and Naomi publicly. "Outstanding work," Mr. Dalton said, beaming. "This is exactly the kind of partnership I want to see." Angela hugged Naomi afterward. "I knew you'd kill it." "We both did," Naomi said, glancing at Ethan. But not everyone was celebrating. Graham watched from across the room, his expression dark. He left the meeting without saying a word. That afternoon, Ethan and Naomi worked together on follow-up materials for Riverside. The office felt different now, lighter. People smiled at Naomi as they passed her desk. A few co-workers stopped to congratulate her personally. Around 3 o'clock, Ethan suggested they grab lunch outside. "Too much energy in here, need some fresh air." They walked to a small cafe 2 blocks from the office. It was a hole-in-the-wall place with amazing sandwiches and mismatched furniture. They ordered at the counter and found a table by the window. "So," Naomi said, unwrapping her sandwich, "tell me something I don't know about you." "Like what?" "Anything. Favorite food, childhood dream, secret talent." Ethan laughed. "Secret talent? I don't know if I have one." "Everyone has one." He thought about it. "I can juggle." "You're kidding." 3 balls. Learned it at summer camp when I was 11. He grinned. "Never had much use for it in the corporate world." Naomi laughed, a real, genuine laugh that made her whole face light up. "I would pay money to see that." "Maybe someday." He took a bite of his sandwich. "Your turn. Secret talent." "I can quote the entire opening monologue from The Lion King." "Prove it." She did, word for word, complete with hand gestures. People at nearby tables turned to look. Ethan couldn't stop smiling. When she finished, he shook his head in amazement. "That's incredible. My mom and I used to watch it every Sunday when I was little. I probably saw it 100 times. She sounds like a great mom. The best." Naomi's expression softened. "She's wary of you, though." Ethan's smile faded. "She knows about me?" "I told her about the job. About everything." Naomi met his eyes. "She said some men apologize because they're caught, others because they've changed. She told me I'd have to figure out which one you are." "And have you?" "I'm starting to." She reached across the table, her hand covering his for just a moment. "You're changing, Ethan, I can see it." His throat felt tight. "I hope so." They finished lunch and walked back to the office slowly. The autumn air was crisp, leaves crunching under their feet. When they reached the building entrance, Ethan opened the door for her. She paused in the doorway. "Thank you. For lunch? For everything." She smiled. "I think we might actually be friends now." Friends. The word should have felt good. It did feel good. But some part of Ethan wanted more. He wasn't ready to admit it yet, but the feeling was there, growing stronger every day. "Yeah," he said. "I think we are." Wednesday afternoon, everything fell apart. Ethan was in a meeting when his phone buzzed. A message from Angela. 911, come to your office now. He excused himself and hurried down the hall. When he entered his office, he found Mr. Dalton standing by the window, his expression grim. Angela sat in one of the chairs, wringing her hands. "What's wrong?" Ethan asked. "We have a problem," Mr. Dalton said quietly. "Confidential client data was leaked. The Morrison account." Ethan's blood ran cold. "How?" "We're investigating, but—" Mr. Dalton turned to face him. "Graham is claiming Naomi was the last person to access the files. That's impossible. She would never—" "I know." Mr. Dalton held up a hand. "But we need to handle this carefully. There's going to be a team meeting in 20 minutes. HR will be present." The meeting was brutal. Graham stood at the front of the conference room, presenting his evidence with cold precision. Login times, file access records, everything pointing to Naomi. Naomi sat quietly, her face carefully blank, but Ethan saw the tremor in her hands. "This is ridiculous," Ethan interrupted. "Naomi wouldn't compromise client confidentiality. Anyone who's worked with her knows that." "The logs don't lie," Graham said smoothly. "Logs can be manipulated. Timestamps can be altered." Ethan stood up, his voice rising. "You're accusing an innocent person because you can't stand that she's better at this job than you are." The room went silent. Graham's face turned red. "How dare you—" "No, how dare you?" Ethan stepped forward. "Naomi has done nothing but excellent work since she started here. She saved the Harrington account. She helped win Riverside. And instead of acknowledging that, you're trying to destroy her reputation." "Mr. Ward," the HR director said carefully, "we need to follow protocol. Then follow it properly. Investigate everyone who had access to those files. Check the IP addresses. Do actual detective work instead of jumping to conclusions." Naomi stood up slowly. Her voice was quiet but steady. "It's okay, Ethan." "No, it's not." "Yes, it is." She looked at the HR director. "I understand you need to investigate. I'm happy to cooperate fully. But I want it on record that I did not leak any confidential information." "Noted," the HR director said. Mr. Dalton spoke up. "We'll suspend the investigation until we have more concrete evidence. Everyone back to work." The room emptied slowly. Ethan caught up with Naomi in the hallway. "I'm sorry," he said. "Thank you for defending me." Her eyes were wet, but she wasn't crying. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did." He touched her arm gently. "I won't let them treat you like this." She nodded, then walked away toward her desk. Ethan watched her go, his chest tight with anger and helplessness. Later that afternoon, Mr. Dalton called Ethan into his office. "That was quite a show," the older man said. "I couldn't just sit there. I'm not criticizing you." Mr. Dalton gestured for him to sit. "I'm observing. You've changed, Ethan. The man who interviewed Naomi 2 months ago would never have stood up like that. She deserved someone to stand up for her." "Yes, she did." Mr. Dalton leaned back in his chair. "I've already started my own investigation. Between you and me, I don't think Naomi had anything to do with this leak." "Then why—" "Because I need proof before I can act. Corporate politics are delicate." He fixed Ethan with a serious look. "But I want you to know. I see what you're doing, and I'm proud of you." The words landed heavy and warm in Ethan's chest. That evening, Ethan stayed late at the office, going through access logs himself. Something wasn't adding up. The timestamps Graham had shown didn't match the patterns he was seeing in the system. His phone buzzed. A text from Naomi. "Thank you again for today. It means more than you know." He typed back, "I'd do it again, 1,000 times." A minute passed. Then, "I believe you." Ethan smiled at his screen. Then he went back to the logs, determined to find the truth. Around 8 o'clock he found it. A discrepancy in the IP addresses. Someone had accessed the files remotely, using credentials that looked like Naomi's, but came from a different location. He forwarded the information to Mr. Dalton immediately. The next morning, Ethan arrived early. He wanted to talk to Naomi before the office filled up, but when he got to her desk, it was empty, clean. Everything personal was gone. His heart stopped. Angela appeared beside him, her face somber. "She resigned last night. Sent her letter to HR at 11 p.m. "What?" "She's done, Ethan. She said she couldn't work in an environment where her integrity was questioned." Ethan felt the world tilt. "Where is she?" "I don't know. She hasn't answered my calls." He found her badge on his desk, the little plastic card with her photo left deliberately where he'd see it. Next to it, a handwritten note. "Thank you for trying, but some battles aren't worth fighting. Take care of yourself." And Ethan sank into his chair, the badge clutched in his hand. His reflection stared back at him from the dark computer screen, distorted and wrong. He'd lost her, and this time, he didn't know if he could get her back. Friday morning came grey and cold. Ethan hadn't slept. He'd spent the entire night staring at Naomi's note, reading it over and over until the words blurred together. Some battles aren't worth fighting, but she was wrong. This battle was worth everything. At 7 a.m., Ethan marched into Mr. Dalton's office. The CEO was already there, reading reports with his morning coffee. "I have proof," Ethan said without preamble. He placed his laptop on the desk, showing the access logs. "Look at the IP addresses. Someone used Naomi's credentials remotely, but it wasn't her computer, wasn't even her location." Mr. Dalton studied the screen carefully. "Where did this come from?" "Graham's home address. I cross-referenced it with HR records." The older man's jaw tightened. "You're certain?" "Completely." He set her up. Mr. Dalton closed his laptop slowly. "Thank you, Ethan. I'll handle this." "With all due respect, sir, that's not enough." Ethan's voice shook slightly. "Naomi's gone. She resigned because we let her be accused of something she didn't do. I failed her. What do you want me to do?" "Let me fix it. Let me make this right." Mr. Dalton studied him for a long moment. "How?" "I need to talk to Graham first. Get him to admit what he did, then—" Ethan swallowed hard. "Then I need to tell the truth, all of it. That will have consequences." "I know." Ethan met his gaze steadily. "But consequences don't matter anymore. Doing the right thing does." Mr. Dalton nodded slowly. "Then do what you need to do." Ethan found Graham in his office an hour later. The man was typing an email, looking smug and satisfied. "We need to talk," Ethan said, closing the door behind him. Graham barely looked up. "About what?" "About the fact that you framed Naomi." Graham's fingers froze on the keyboard. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do." Ethan walked to the desk, placing his phone face up between them. The recording app was already running. "You accessed the Morrison files using her credentials from your home computer. I have proof." The color drained from Graham's face. "You're bluffing." "Am I? Want to bet your career on it?" Ethan leaned forward. "I've already given the evidence to Mr. Dalton. He's reviewing it right now, so you have two choices. You can admit what you did, or you can wait for security to escort you out in front of everyone." Silence filled the room. Graham's hands clenched into fists. "She didn't belong here," he said finally, his voice bitter. "Dalton only hired her to look good, to check some diversity box." "That's not true, isn't it? She waltzed in and suddenly she's everyone's favorite, gets the best assignments, gets praised for doing the bare minimum." Graham's anger was ugly, raw. "Meanwhile, I've been here for 6 years. 6 years of hard work, and what do I get? Passed over for promotions, ignored in meetings. So you destroyed her reputation, made her feel like she couldn't trust anyone here?" "I did what I had to do." Graham stood up, his chair scraping loudly. "And you know what's funny? You agreed with me at first. Remember? A black woman won't suit this position." "Those were your words, Ethan, not mine." The accusation hit like a punch to the gut, because it was true. "You're right," Ethan said quietly. "I did say that, and I was wrong. Completely, utterly wrong. But you know what the difference is between us?" "What?" "I'm willing to admit it. I'm willing to change. You're just doubling down on hate." Ethan picked up his phone, stopping the recording. "I'll give this to HR, and Dalton, and anyone else who needs to hear it." He walked to the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, Graham, Naomi didn't take anything from you. Your own bitterness did that all by itself." The all-staff meeting was called for 3 o'clock that afternoon. Everyone crowded into the main conference room, whispering and speculating. Word had spread that something big was happening. Ethan stood at the front of the room, his heart pounding so hard he thought everyone could hear it. Mr. Dalton sat in the back, arms crossed, watching. Angela gave him an encouraging nod from her seat near the window. "Thank you all for coming," Ethan began. His voice sounded steadier than he felt. "I need to talk to you about something important. About someone important." He took a deep breath. 2 months ago, I said something I deeply regret. I said that a black woman wouldn't suit a position on our team. I said it casually, like it was just an opinion, like it didn't matter. He looked around the room, meeting eyes. But it did matter. And I was wrong. The room was completely silent. Naomi Clark was the best candidate we interviewed. She was brilliant, hard-working, and professional. She saved accounts. She won new business. She made everyone around her better. His voice cracked slightly. And instead of celebrating that, some of us made her feel unwelcome. Some of us questioned her qualifications. Some of us set her up to fail. He pulled out his phone, playing the recording of Graham's confession. Every damning word echoed through the speakers. When it finished, people turned to look at Graham's empty chair. He'd already been escorted out by security. Naomi resigned because we failed her, Ethan continued. Because I failed her. I was her supervisor. I should have protected her, should have made this a place where she felt valued and safe. Instead, I let my own prejudice and cowardice get in the way. He set his phone down. His hands were shaking. I'm resigning, effective immediately. Not because anyone asked me to, but because I need to prove that this isn't just words. Change requires sacrifice. It requires being willing to lose something that matters. Gasps rippled through the room. I hope you'll all learn from my mistakes. I hope you'll do better than I did. And I hope Naomi knows, wherever she is, that she deserved so much more than what we gave her. He walked out of the conference room without looking back. His legs felt like rubber. His chest felt hollow. But for the first time in months, his conscience was clear. He cleaned out his office in 20 minutes. Personal items, a few photos, his favorite coffee mug, everything else stayed behind. When he walked out of the building with just his briefcase, the autumn wind hit his face like a baptism. He'd lost his job, damaged his reputation, burned bridges, but he'd told the truth, and somehow, that felt like winning. 2 weeks passed like years. Ethan spent his days applying for jobs, going on walks, thinking too much. He'd already had 3 interviews at smaller firms. None of them felt right. Everything felt hollow without her. He'd tried calling Naomi twice. Both times it went straight to voicemail. He'd sent emails, text messages, all unanswered. He didn't blame her. One Wednesday afternoon, he finally worked up the courage to write her a real letter. Not an email, an actual letter, handwritten on nice paper. Dear Naomi, I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect forgiveness. But I need you to know the truth. You changed my life. Not because of anything you said or did deliberately, but because you existed in my world with such grace and strength that I couldn't ignore my own smallness anymore. I grew up believing that success looked a certain way, that it came from certain backgrounds, certain schools, certain families. You proved me wrong without even trying. You showed me that brilliance comes in forms I'd been taught not to recognize. I'm sorry for how I treated you, for the coldness, the distance, the failure to see you clearly from the start. I'm sorry I didn't defend you louder and sooner. I'm sorry I let you walk away thinking you weren't valued. You were valued. You are valued by me, by everyone who truly saw you. I resigned from Dalton and Myers. Graham was fired. The truth came out. But none of that matters if you're not okay. If you don't feel vindicated, if you're hurting. I hope you're building something beautiful in your new chapter. I hope you're surrounded by people who see your worth immediately. I hope you're happy. And I hope someday you can forgive me. Ethan. He mailed it to her last known address. Then he waited. Days turned into more days. No response. He tried to move on. Accepted a position at a smaller marketing firm. The work was fine. The people were nice. But every day felt like going through the motions. Then, 3 weeks after sending the letter, his phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Ethan Ward? A woman's voice. Not Naomi's. Yes? This is Mrs. Clark, Naomi's mother. His heart stopped. Mrs. Clark, I read your letter. Naomi left it on her kitchen table. The woman's voice was measured, careful. She's been working from home, freelancing, building her own client list. Is she okay? No, not really. A pause. But she's strong. She'll survive. She always does. Ethan closed his eyes. I'm so sorry for everything. I know you are. I can hear it in your voice. Mrs. Clark sighed. Here's what I need to know, Mr. Ward. Did you apologize because you got caught or because you changed? The question hung in the air. I changed, Ethan said quietly. Or at least I'm trying to. Every single day. Good. Because my daughter doesn't need another person in her life who only says the right things when it's convenient. I understand. Do you? Her voice softened slightly. Naomi is the best thing that ever happened to me. She's brilliant and kind, and she deserves someone who sees that from the beginning. Not someone who had to learn it the hard way. You're absolutely right. Another pause, then. She talks about you when she thinks I'm not listening. She mentions something you said, or something you did, and her voice changes. Ethan's breath caught. It does. Yes, which is why I'm calling, because I need to know if you're serious about this. About her. I am. More than anything. Then prove it. Not with words, with action. Mrs. Clark's voice grew firm. You want forgiveness? Earn it. You want her trust? Build it day by day, step by step. How do I start? You'll figure it out. You're a smart man. She paused. But here's a hint. She's working out of a small office building on Peachtree Street, 3rd floor, if you're brave enough. The line went dead. Ethan stared at his phone, his mind racing. Then he grabbed his keys and headed for the door. The office building on Peachtree Street was modest. Brick exterior, old-fashioned elevator, narrow hallways. Ethan climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, his heart hammering. The directory on the wall listed several small businesses. Then he saw it. Clark Consulting, Suite 304. He stood outside her door for a full minute, trying to breathe normally. Finally, he knocked. "Come in," her voice called. He opened the door. The office was small but bright. A desk by the window, plants on the shelves, framed photos on the walls. And there, looking up from her laptop, was Naomi. She froze when she saw him. "Ethan." "Hi." He stayed in the doorway, holding a bouquet of white roses. "I'm sorry for showing up unannounced. Your mother gave me the address." "She did?" Surprise flickered across her face. "Can I come in?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Close the door behind you." He did. He walked to her desk slowly, setting the roses down gently. "These aren't a romantic gesture. They're an apology, a real one." Naomi looked at the flowers, then at him. Her expression was guarded. "You didn't need to do this." "Yes, I did." He stayed standing, keeping distance between them. "I needed you to know that I see what I did wrong, not just with Graham and the accusations, but from the very beginning. I judged you before I knew you. I let prejudice cloud my judgment, and I'm sorry." She was quiet for a long moment. "I got your letter. I meant every word." "I know." Her voice was soft. "That's what made it so hard to read." "Hard? Because part of me wanted to stay angry at you. Anger is easier than whatever this is." She gestured between them. "You hurt me, Ethan, not just professionally, personally. I know, and I hate that I did." She stood up, walking to the window. The afternoon light caught her profile, making her look like a painting. "Do you know what the worst part was? It wasn't the accusation. It wasn't even Graham's cruelty. What was it? It was feeling like I'd been foolish, like I'd started to trust you, started to believe you were different only to be proven wrong." She turned to face him. "I let my guard down, and it cost me." Ethan's throat felt tight. "You weren't foolish. You were brave. You gave me a chance I didn't deserve." "No, you didn't." Her eyes glistened. "But then you stood up for me. You defended me when it mattered. You lost your job for me. I didn't lose it. I gave it up. There's a difference." "Why?" "Because you taught me who I don't want to be." He took a small step closer. "You showed me what integrity looks like, what strength looks like, what real grace under pressure looks like, and I realized that keeping that job meant compromising everything I'd learned from you." A tear slipped down her cheek. She wiped it away quickly. "You can't just show up here with flowers and pretty words, Ethan. I know. You can't undo what happened. I know that too. So what do you want from me?" He met her eyes. "Nothing. I want nothing from you. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry. And that you deserve every good thing that comes your way." She stared at him, searching his face for something. Lies, maybe. Or proof that this was real. Finally, she spoke. "My mother said something to me last week. She said, 'Then start by forgiving yourself.'" "What?" "I was angry. At you. At Graham. At the whole situation. And she told me that holding on to anger was like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die." Naomi walked to her desk, picking up the roses. "She said if I wanted to move forward, I needed to let it go. Not for you, for me. Have you? Let it go?" "I'm trying." She smelled the flowers, a small smile crossing her face. "These are beautiful, by the way. You deserve beautiful things." She set the roses down and looked at him. Really looked at him. "What are you doing now for work?" "I'm at a small firm, marketing strategy. It's fine." "Just fine?" "Honestly, it's boring. The work is easy. The people are nice. But there's no challenge, no spark." He shrugged. "Turns out working with someone who pushes you to be better makes all the difference. Flattery won't get you anywhere. It's not flattery. It's truth." He paused. "How's the freelancing going?" "Actually, really well. I have 3 steady clients. 2 more in the pipeline." Pride crept into her voice. "I'm building something that's mine." "That's amazing, Naomi, really." They stood there, the air between them charged with everything unsaid. Finally, Naomi broke the silence. "I don't know if we can go back to being friends, Ethan." His heart sank. "I understand. But maybe—" She bit her lip. "Maybe we could start over." Slowly. Hope flickered in his chest. Slowly? Very slowly. As in, Maybe you leave now and I think about whether I want to see you again. He nodded. That's fair. He walked to the door, then turned back. For what it's worth, you're going to do incredible things, with or without me. But I hope someday you'll let me watch you succeed. Goodbye, Ethan. Goodbye, Naomi. He left, closing the door softly behind him. As he walked down the stairs, his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Naomi. You were right about one thing. Working with someone who challenges you makes all the difference. I have a big project coming up. If you're interested in consulting, call me next week. Ethan read the message 3 times, a smile spreading across his face. It wasn't much, but it was a start. And sometimes a start was everything. The following Monday, Ethan called the number Naomi had texted him. His hand shook slightly as he pressed dial. She answered on the 3rd ring. Clark Consulting. Hi, it's Ethan. A pause. Then, hi, you said I should call about a project? I did. Her voice was professional, but he caught a hint of warmth underneath. I landed a contract with a boutique hotel chain. They want to rebrand completely. It's a big job. Congratulations. That's huge. Thank you. But I could use help. Someone with corporate experience. Someone who understands brand positioning. Another pause. Someone I can trust to do good work. The last part landed softly between them. I'd be honored, Ethan said. When do we start? Tomorrow, 9 a.m., my office. I'll be there. Tuesday morning, Ethan arrived at Naomi's office at 8:45. He brought 2 coffees from the shop downstairs, one black, one with cream and sugar, because he wasn't sure which she preferred. When he knocked, she called for him to enter. She was already at her desk, reviewing documents. Morning, he said, holding up the cups. I didn't know how you take your coffee. She looked at the cups, then at him. A small smile tugged at her lips. Cream and sugar. Then this one's yours. He set it on her desk. Thank you. She took a sip, her eyes closing briefly. That's perfect. They spent the morning going over the hotel project. The chain had 6 properties across Georgia and wanted a unified brand message that still honored each location's unique character. It was complex, nuanced work, exactly the kind of challenge Ethan had been missing. As they worked, something shifted. The awkwardness from their last meeting began to fade. They fell into an easy rhythm, Naomi suggesting ideas, Ethan building on them, both of them refining until something clicked. What about this? Naomi turned her laptop toward him. Each property keeps its name, but we create a tagline that ties them together. Every stay tells a story. That's good. Really good. Ethan leaned forward. We could do a campaign showing real guests' stories. Honeymoons, anniversaries, family reunions. Yes. Her eyes lit up. Make it personal, make it real. They worked through lunch, ordering sandwiches and eating at her desk. The conversation drifted from work to life. She told him about a difficult client who'd wanted neon colors for a meditation app. He told her about his mother's recent obsession with pickleball. It felt normal, easy, like they were just 2 people who enjoyed each other's company. Around 3 o'clock, Angela texted Ethan. How's it going? He replied, good, really good. Don't mess this up, she wrote back, followed by a heart emoji. He smiled at his phone. What? Naomi asked. Angela's checking on me, making sure I'm behaving. Naomi laughed. She texted me this morning too, told me to give you a chance. And are you? Giving me a chance? She set down her pen and looked at him. So far, yes, but this is still a trial period, Ethan. Professional and personal. I understand. Do you? Her expression grew serious. Because I need you to know something. I don't forgive easily, and I don't forget. What happened at Dalton and Myers hurt me, deeply. I know. But I also believe people can change. My mother taught me that. She said holding grudges only hurts yourself. Naomi folded her hands on her desk. So I'm willing to see if you've really changed. But if you disappoint me again, I won't. You can't promise that. You're right. I can't. He met her gaze. But I can promise to try, every single day, to be better than I was, to see you clearly, to value you the way you deserve. She studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. Okay, then let's see where this goes. Over the next 3 weeks, they fell into a routine. Ethan came to Naomi's office every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. They worked on the hotel campaign, refining every detail until it shined. But more than that, they talked, really talked. She told him about her childhood, about watching her mother work 2 jobs to keep them afloat, about scholarship applications and student loans and the weight of being the first in her family to graduate college. He told her about his privileged upbringing, about country clubs and trust funds and never wanting for anything, about the guilt he felt now looking back. "I didn't earn most of what I had," he admitted one afternoon. "It was just given to me because of who my parents were." "That's not your fault," Naomi said gently. "Maybe not, but what I did with that privilege, that was my choice, and I made selfish ones." Past tense. "You made selfish choices." Present tense. "You're doing better." Her words felt like absolution. One Friday, they finished early. The campaign was nearly complete. Naomi leaned back in her chair, stretching her arms above her head. "We did it," she said. "This is good work. It's great work. The client's going to love it." She smiled at him, a real unguarded smile. "Want to grab dinner, celebrate?" His heart skipped. "Really?" "Yeah. I mean, if you're free." "I'm free." They went to a small Italian restaurant 2 blocks away. The place was cozy, with checkered tablecloths and candles on every table. They ordered pasta and wine and talked for hours. At one point, Naomi laughed so hard at one of his stories that she snorted. She immediately covered her mouth, embarrassed. "That was adorable," Ethan said. "It was mortifying. It was human and perfect." He reached across the table, his hand hovering near hers. "Can I tell you something?" "Sure." "These past few weeks, working with you, it's been the happiest I've been in a long time." She looked at their hands, almost touching but not quite. "Me too." "Really?" "Yeah." She pulled her hand back, but gently. "You're different now, Ethan. Softer, more open. You make me want to be better." "That's nice to hear. But you know what's nicer? Knowing you want to be better for yourself, not just for me." He thought about that. She was right. He'd changed because he'd finally seen himself clearly, seen the smallness of his thinking, the harm of his assumptions. Naomi had been the catalyst, but the work was his own. "You're right," he said. "I'm doing this for me, but having you in my life makes it easier." "Good answer." She smiled over her wineglass. "You're learning." They left the restaurant around 9. The city streets were alive with people and music and light. As they walked back toward her office, Ethan felt a contentment he hadn't known in years. "Thank you for tonight," he said when they reached her building. "Thank you for being good company." She started to turn away, but he called her name. "Naomi? Yeah? Would you want to do this again? Not for work, just dinner, talking, spending time together." She tilted her head, considering. "Are you asking me on a date?" "I don't know. Maybe. If you're open to it." "I'm not ready for dating, Ethan, not yet." His heart sank a little, but he nodded. "I understand." "But," she continued, "I'm open to more dinners, more conversations, seeing where things go naturally. I can work with that." She laughed. "Good night, Ethan." "Good night." He watched her enter her building, then walked back to his car with a lightness in his step. Progress. Slow, careful progress. But progress nonetheless. The hotel chain loved their campaign. They signed a year-long contract with Naomi's consulting firm and requested that Ethan remain on the project. The celebration happened at Naomi's office. Her, Ethan, Angela, and a bottle of champagne Angela had insisted on bringing. "To second chances," Angela toasted, raising her glass. "To second chances," Naomi and Ethan echoed. They drank, laughed, and told stories about the project's challenges. Angela regaled them with office gossip from Dalton and Myers. Apparently Graham had been blacklisted from several firms in Atlanta after word spread about what he'd done. "Good riddance," Angela said firmly. "He got exactly what he deserved." As the evening wound down, Angela excused herself. "I've got an early morning, but you two, keep celebrating. You earned it." After she left, Naomi and Ethan stood on the small balcony attached to her office. The city stretched out before them, lights twinkling in the darkness. "This is a good view," Ethan said. "It's why I rented this space. Sometimes I just sit out here and think." "About what?" "Everything. Where I've been, where I'm going, who I want to be." He turned to look at her. The wind caught her hair, pushing it back from her face. She looked peaceful, beautiful. "Can I tell you something?" he asked. "You're full of confessions tonight. Just one more." He took a breath. "I'm proud of you, for building this, for not letting what happened destroy you, for being brave enough to start over." Her eyes glistened. "That means a lot. You deserve to hear it." They stood in comfortable silence for a while. Then Naomi spoke softly. "I was scared, you know. When I left Dalton and Myers, I felt like a failure. You weren't." "Let me finish." She held up a hand. "I felt like one, like I'd let them win. But then I realized something. They didn't take anything from me that I couldn't rebuild, better, stronger, on my own terms. That's incredibly wise. My mother's words, not mine." She smiled. "But I'm learning to believe them. Ethan reached for her hand. This time she didn't pull away. Their fingers intertwined and warmth spread through his chest. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For letting me be part of this. Part of your rebuilding." She squeezed his hand. "Thank you for showing up, for doing the work, for proving me right." "Right about what?" "That you could change, that you were worth a second chance." They stood there, hands clasped, the city humming below. Neither of them wanted to move. Neither wanted to break the spell. Finally, Naomi spoke. "I should probably get home, it's late." "Let me walk you to your car. It's just downstairs." "I know. Let me anyway." They walked through her office, down the stairs, into the parking garage. Her car was parked near the elevator. When they reached it, she turned to face him. "Ethan." "Yeah? I'm glad you showed up that day with the roses." "Me too. And I'm glad we're doing this, building something new." "So am I." She stood on her toes and kissed his cheek. Soft, brief, but enough to make his heart race. "Good night," she whispered. "Good night, Naomi." He watched her drive away, touching the spot where her lips had been. Something was definitely changing between them. Something wonderful and terrifying in equal measure. 2 weeks later, they were both working late on a proposal for a potential new client. The deadline was the next morning, and they still had hours of work ahead. Around 8 p.m., Naomi stood up and stretched. "I need a break. Want to walk around the block?" "Definitely." They left her office and stepped into the night. The air was cool, carrying the smell of rain. Dark clouds gathered overhead. "Looks like a storm's coming," Ethan observed. "We'll be quick." They walked down Peachtree Street, past closed shops and late-night restaurants. The city felt different at night, quieter, more intimate. "Can I ask you something personal?" Naomi said. "Anything." "When did you know that you'd been wrong about me?" Ethan thought about it. "I think it was gradual, little moments that added up. But the Harrington presentation was big, watching you save the account so calmly, realizing you were better under pressure than I'd ever been." He paused. "And then later at the retreat when you told me about your mother, I saw your humanity, your heart, and I couldn't unsee it." "That's a good answer. What about you? When did you start to trust me again?" She considered the question. "When you defended me in that meeting. When you stood up to Graham even though it cost you something. That's when I thought, maybe he's for real." She looked at him. "And then when you quit, that's when I knew for sure. I couldn't stay. Not after what happened to you." "I know. That's why it mattered." The first drops of rain began to fall, just a sprinkle at first, then harder. Within seconds, it was pouring. "Run!" Naomi laughed, grabbing his hand. They ran down the sidewalk, but there was no shelter nearby. They were soaked within a minute, water streaming down their faces. Finally, they stopped under a shop awning, breathless and laughing. "So much for a quick walk," Ethan said, pushing wet hair out of his eyes. Naomi was laughing too hard to respond. Her mascara had smudged slightly. Her clothes clung to her. She looked absolutely radiant. Ethan's smile faded. He looked at her, really looked at her, and something shifted inside him, something profound and undeniable. "Naomi," he said softly. "Yeah, I need to tell you something." Her laughter quieted. "Okay, I'm in love with you." The words hung in the rain-soaked air. She stared at him, her eyes wide. "What?" "I'm in love with you," he repeated. "I don't know when it happened exactly. Maybe at the retreat. Maybe before. Maybe the moment you walked into that boardroom and refused to be less than extraordinary." He took a step closer. "I know I don't deserve you. I know I hurt you. But I need you to know that I love you completely, truly. And I want to spend the rest of my life proving that I'm worthy of you." Tears mixed with rain on her cheeks. "Ethan, I'm not asking you to love me back. Not yet. I just needed you to know, because holding it in was killing me." She covered her mouth with her hand, a sob escaping. "You really mean that?" "Every word. I'd say it 1,000 times if you need to hear it. I don't need 1,000 times." She lowered her hand, revealing a trembling smile. "Once was enough. Naomi, stop trying to earn me, Ethan. Stop trying to prove yourself worthy." She stepped closer, rain still falling around them. "Just stay. Just be here. Be honest. Be kind. Be you. That's all I need. I can do that." "Good." She reached up, cupping his face with both hands. "Because I think I'm falling in love with you too, and it terrifies me." "Why?" "Because I swore I'd never let anyone make me feel small again. Never let anyone make me question my worth. I won't." "I know. That's what terrifies me. I believe you. And believing you means being vulnerable. And vulnerability means I could get hurt." He covered her hands with his. I will do everything in my power not to hurt you. But if I mess up, I promise I'll own it. I'll apologize, I'll do better, I won't run, I won't hide, I'll stay and do the work. She searched his eyes. Promise? I promise. She pulled his face down to hers and kissed him, really kissed him, deep and sure, and full of everything they'd been dancing around for months. The rain poured harder, but neither of them noticed. They were lost in each other, in the moment, in the rightness of finally letting go. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. Wow, Ethan whispered. Yeah, Naomi laughed, crying, her forehead pressed against his. Wow, so what now? Now we go back to my office, finish that proposal, and try not to get distracted by the fact that we just confessed our feelings in the rain like a romance movie. He laughed. That sounds perfect. They ran back through the rain, hand in hand, laughing like teenagers. When they reached her building, they were completely drenched. Water pooled on the floor of the elevator as they rode up. We're a mess, Naomi said, looking down at her soaked clothes. The best kind of mess. They finished the proposal around midnight, sitting side by side, occasionally stealing glances and smiles. When it was done, Ethan saved the final version and closed his laptop. We did it. We make a good team, Naomi said. The best team. She leaned her head on his shoulder. I'm happy, Ethan. Really, genuinely happy. And that scares me because it means I have something to lose. You won't lose me. I'm not going anywhere. You better not. She looked up at him. Because I'm all in now, and I don't do anything halfway. Neither do I, not anymore. 6 months later, Ethan and Naomi sat in a small restaurant celebrating. Not a client win, not a project completion, but something bigger. They'd signed the paperwork that afternoon. Their new firm, Ward & Clark Marketing, was officially registered. Equal partners, equal vision, building something together from the ground up. To us, Naomi said, raising her glass. To us, Ethan echoed. They clinked glasses and drank. Around them, the restaurant buzzed with life, but they only had eyes for each other. Your mom called me today, Ethan said. She did? What did she say? She said, welcome to the family, son. Then she invited me to dinner next week. Naomi's eyes widened. She called you son? Yep, I think I passed her test. That's huge. She doesn't hand out that word lightly. I know, I almost cried. Naomi laughed, reaching across the table for his hand. She likes you. She told me last week that she was proud of me for giving you a real chance. I'm grateful every day that you did. Me too. After dinner, they walked to the rooftop terrace of Naomi's office building. They'd made it a habit, coming up here after important moments to talk and reflect. The city spread out before them, endless and bright. Ethan wrapped his arms around Naomi from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. Remember that first interview? He asked softly. How could I forget? I said something terrible that day, something I've regretted ever since. I know. Want to hear what I'd say now if I could go back? She turned in his arms to face him. What would you say? He smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. I'd say, this woman is going to change my life. This woman is going to teach me what real excellence looks like. This woman is going to make me a better man than I ever thought I could be. He paused. And then I'd say, she suits this position better than anyone else in the world, including me. Tears filled her eyes. You really think that? I know that. You were always the right person, Naomi. I was just too blind to see it. And now? Now I see you perfectly. Every brilliant, beautiful, strong part of you. He kissed her forehead. And I get to be your partner, in business and in life. I'm the luckiest man alive. She wrapped her arms around his neck. We both found where we belong. Yeah, we did. They stood there under the stars, holding each other, the city breathing below them. Two people who'd started as strangers, divided by prejudice and pride, now bound by love and understanding. I love you, Naomi whispered. I love you too, always. The night stretched on, full of promise and possibility, and as they stood together, Ethan thought about how far they'd both come, about the grace Naomi had shown him, about the humility he'd learned, about the love they'd built together, piece by piece, through honesty and effort and hope. She'd suited that position perfectly from day one, but more than that, she'd suited his heart, his life, his future, and he would spend every day proving himself worthy of that gift. Not through grand gestures or empty words, but through showing up, through listening, through loving her with the same grace she'd shown him. That was enough. That would always be enough.